Our presentation today will be on microcephaly in utero. Microcephaly is a disease that shows abnormal smallness of the head, a congenital condition associated with incomplete brain development. It is a rare neurological condition in which an infant's head is significantly smaller than the heads of other children of the same age and sex. This does include in utero ages. The disease can either be congenital, genetic, or an acquired problem. As you can see here, this is a picture of an ultrasound with a baby that has been diagnosed with microencephaly. As you can see, the head is underdeveloped on the backside, which shows that the skull itself is not growing, which means the brain is not growing either. Now we will watch a doctor and patient interaction where the doctor has called the patient back in to discuss ultrasound results that were seen the prior day.
Hello, Sarah.
Hey.
I'm glad you're able to come in again today. I know you were here just yesterday, but the reason why I had you come back here again today was that after reviewing your ultrasound from yesterday, we found something that needs to be discussed.
Okay, is something wrong?
Well, when doing an ultrasound, we measure all different aspects of your baby's growing body to ensure that everything is growing like it's supposed to.
Okay. Is something not going correctly? Did you guys see something?
Unfortunately, yes, we did.
Okay. So what's wrong? What's going on?
I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's your baby's head. After measuring yesterday's ultrasound and comparing between past ultrasounds, your baby's head is disproportionate to the rest of its body. It's not the size it should be in the third trimester. Here, let me show you. So if you look at these four measurements, these four ultrasounds that we've done, you'll see that there's not been that much of a change between each of our measurements. So the diameter of your baby's head isn't changing that much.
So why did you not pick up on this sooner? Why are we just now seeing this in the third trimester?
Unfortunately, until later in pregnancy, certain issues aren't seen or are even occurring yet.
Okay, so what's wrong with my baby then?
Your baby has congenital microcephaly.
What is congenital microcephaly?
Well, regular microcephaly is defined as an abnormal smallness of the head. And in your case, since you're pregnant and the baby hasn't been born yet, it's called congenital microcephaly.
Okay. So how in the world did this happen? I have been very careful with everything I've done. I've been active. I've paid attention to what I've ate. I've paid attention to just about anything you can think of, and my other child does not have this issue.
Well, this could have been genetic or an infection or a vascular disruption. I did go back in your chart to see if you have traveled outside of the country, and I did see where I gave you permission to fly to Brazil with your family during your first trimester.
Okay, so what did my trip to Brazil with my family have to do with that?
We can't say for certain right now, but if you were bitten by a mosquito carrying what has been called the Zika virus, then this might be able to explain why this has happened to you. Do you remember being bitten by any bugs?
No, I don't. You mean to tell me that if this is not genetic, like you said, nothing with my family, that a bug could have done this? A bug bite could have done this?
I'm sorry to say this, but yes, that's what I'm saying. Here's what I'd like to do. After the baby is born, we'll run tests to determine if it was the Zika virus, and if it was not, then you'll need to speak with your closest family members, your parents, siblings, aunts and uncles, and to help figure out if there's a medical history of any pregnancy-related issues or abnormalities. If anything comes to light, then we'll go from there to run genetic testing.
Okay, so with all this information, testing, whatever, even if we find out what caused this, will this help my baby?
Sorry to say this, Sarah, but no, it will not. However, you'll know for future generations, which includes any other children you may already have or will have, that if this is a genetic issue, then they'll know to be very aware during pregnancies for any abnormalities. I know this doesn't really help you much in your current situation, but information now could help your future generations.
Okay, so even if we find out what's going on, why or what's caused this, why would this information not be useful now?
Unfortunately, there's no treatment in utero, and there's no treatment after the baby is born.
Okay, so if there's no treatment and no treatment after the baby's born, what do we need to do then after the baby gets here?
Well, after the baby is born, we'll conduct some tests, the test that I was telling you about, and then we can set up appointments with you for other specialists to help to see and make sure that your baby is getting the proper care it needs.
Okay, so if you're talking about specialists, then that means there's going to be some medical issues. So what do we need to be prepared for?
The big thing we'll be watching for and preparing for is seizures, problems with movement and balance, feeding problems such as difficulty swallowing, hearing and vision problems, and possible developmental delays such as speech and the ability to learn and function daily. These problems can range from mild to severe. Because the baby's brain is so small and underdeveloped, babies with severe microcephaly can have more of these problems or have even more difficulty with them than babies with a milder microcephaly. Severe microcephaly is also life-threatening because it's difficult to predict at birth what problems a baby will have from microcephaly. Babies with microcephaly will often need to be followed very closely through regular checkups with a healthcare provider to monitor their growth and their development.
Okay, will you be able to help us find these doctors and walk through these different issues that we're going to have to deal with? You're not going to leave us alone, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
We will of course set you up with some pediatricians to be there for you immediately after the baby is born. We will also set you up with specialty doctors in neurology and even geneticists if it is deemed that this has come about due to a genetic inheritance. We will even get you set up with developmental clinics and early intervention programs to be there for you as your child grows.
Okay. I don't really want to talk about mortality rate right now, but I do want to know if you know of any children that have lived as long as life as possible with this.
There have been reports of children living well into their 20s, but that's based on the severity of the microcephaly and the amount of damage that's done to the brain during fetal development.
Okay. Well, with all this said, and a kind of future idea of what to expect, where do we go from here just for the rest of the pregnancy, at least?
I'd like to keep seeing you at least once every week, keep doing ultrasounds to keep a record for any future doctors you may have to see for themselves how the head and the brain have developed, and of course we'll keep a good check or a good eye on your baby's development to make sure that anything else isn't going to be causing any problems.
Okay, well, at least we have a plan and know what needs to be done.
Do you have any other questions?
No, not at this moment. I still need to digest this, and I need to talk to my family, and I want to thank you for being completely honest with me and not holding anything back. That helped in its own little way.
You're very welcome. Please see the receptionist up front.
Okay.
She'll give you a list of doctors
Okay.
so that you can do your own research into their practices.
Okay.
Please give us a call if there's anything else that you need,
Okay.
and I'll see you next week.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Microencephaly is an uncommon disease, and the diagnosis in itself does not imply microcephaly and mental retardation. When gross abnormalities exist within the head and the fetal head measurement is more than 3 standard deviations below the norm, the likelihood of true microcephaly and mental retardation is great. However, when the measurements are between 1 and 3 standard deviations below the norm without internal abnormalities of the fetal head, there is reasonable hope that these fetuses will develop normally. There is no cure for microencephaly. There is no treatment options in utero for microcephaly.